So again, I'm here with Dave Fitch, and we're having a conversation. First out of his book, Faithful Presence, and then out of his own community.
And you're making kind of negative comments about McDonald's.
I'm trying to be gracious about the coffee that's in the room, confessing the difficulty. Dave, one of the things that's an issue here is this understanding of place.
Yeah.
And you're talking about things that I and others are deeply invested in, which is it is by dwelling in and inhabiting and being present in the neighborhood, in the context in which one lives, that you begin to discover what God is up to. There are others who very genuinely say, look, we get you, but we actually don't live in that kind of world. We live in a world now where neighborhood or place makes less and less sense. There's virtual space. We have our relationships in all these other places. Yeah. Urban geography just doesn't create place anymore. And so talk to me a little bit about your own sort of theological sense of why is place so important in this?
Well, first, I can see the temptation to say locality is less important. Face-to-face encounter is less important because we have Facebook. Hey, all we need is Facebook.
Yeah. Well, people would say I can be face-to-face at my club 20 miles away from where I live. And in fact, where I live, I hardly ever have any time or relationship with people.
Right. And so you have the technology that's taking us out of locality, but you also have, it's so true that a lot of our spaces are at places we drive to 20 miles away.
Yeah.
And I guess that I just had a doctoral thesis done on commuter church and how it is destroying or changing the way we understand gospel, how we do not spend time with each other enough at the local church to be able to actually experience anything but a message that we have to then go out and live in the world as individuals.
Right.
So, granted, these are the sociological developments we're all dealing with, but I strongly suggest that this is killing us.
Mm.
This is killing us as human beings, and there's so much been written about it. I couldn't possibly tell you where to go right now, except just Google it, and you'll get 100 titles.
Yeah.
But it's killing us because the world's longing for presence. The culture is running on antagonism. I mean, hello, we're sitting in the United States right now, and we're sitting in a post-election period where actually just, the congressman and several people were shot on a baseball field.
In the baseball,
yesterday.
yeah.
We are just, the world is splintering apart into factions one by one, and the antagonisms are so, it's driving us that we are having a hard time coping with life. And I suggest that it's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
And no amount of money, no big house, no whatever other accoutrements of modern capitalism will make it better. And so I believe the church has to be the place of healing, restoration, of social relationality that is, I believe, the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And that means instead of saying, let's accommodate, let's assimilate, let's accommodate our church structures to these situations, we need to call people to resist them in some way and to come out and be present. I am telling you, so I was in a northwest suburb where everybody was spatially driving all sorts of places. The subdivisions were spread out galore, and the three main churches were huge mega churches. And we moved to Westmont, where we all moved. We're now 40 of us. We all live within walking distance. And the pace and experience of the gospel is so rich. I would gladly reduce my home, which is now only a 2-bedroom home anyways, but I'd lop off a few more bedrooms just to live in this kind of way of life. I think the world knows it. I think we're heading for some kind of a reorganization or change or a dramatic eruption of what our society's become. So I want to say no. I think all all the research, all of what we're learning is that this is not where we're going. This is the thing we're going to have to be healed from.
It strikes me that, it'd be interesting your comment, that if one says in this kind of messy place where we find ourselves with the hunger, that you can no longer get in a car and drive and call that church. That the church is a rooted people in a local area, describing what you're up to. Now, that sounds incredibly radical inside of a North American context. But it is that kind of presence, I would think, that becomes critical for whether or not we as Christians will participate in God's transformation.
Absolutely. This goes, you know, I don't want to get too academic here on you, but the radical democracy movement is all about seeing that democracy as a whole has become splintered and separated from its people, and is now run by oligopolies and capitalist global corporate interests, and on the ground here people are dying, and it's become separate.
Exactly.
And it's calling for a radical democracy. All of these movements are recognizing in political theory we must establish local ways of life to sustain human life itself, or we have no possibilities for the future. Yeah.
And so this really is about the vocation of Christians to remake our lived geography, so that church is shaping a people on the ground in local neighborhoods. And that's a strange understanding of gospel for a lot of people. I don't know whether you want to comment on that.
Yeah, well, the church, when you start saying that, I was thinking to myself, you know, 2,000 years of church history, the church has always seen renewal. Let's call it revival in North American terms.
Yeah.
It's always seen a renewal and a revival by going to local context. You know, you think about the various monastic movements in the Middle Ages, for one. You think about the Celtic movements in the 5th and 6th century. You think about Wesley going local, you know, and renewing a dead Anglicanism. It always goes local. I'm an Anabaptist, so I love local, but it's biblical. And so the church, if it's going to see renewal, is going to see it by going local. I think, well, I'm talking to several large megachurch pastors who see the problem, and their structures of megachurch are not, they're having such a hard time engaging. But on the other hand, I know other churches, even in spread out suburbs, who said, let's concentrate on, let's set leaders in each little territory of subdivisions, and let's engage locally. And the effects are marvelous. The effects are transformative. You know, there's an old theory. I'm a church planter for like 35 years. You get somebody over for dinner, and they're part of your church.
That sounds complicated, David. That really sounds complicated.
Get somebody over for dinner. Share
the table.
A beverage. Share the table. Revolution happens in your home. You got to read my book to understand thoroughly what I mean by that. But,
faithful presence.
Yeah, but that's where I think we need to start. And I think I'm talking to mega churches. I'm talking to little house churches. Start around the table, groups of 12. It seemed to me there was a man, a Messiah figure. I won't call him a Messiah figure. Jesus Christ, Lord of the universe, who started this way. If Jesus Christ, Lord of the universe, can start with 12 around a table, why can't we?
Let's on this video say amen and say, please, Lord, don't let them turning it into another program. This is about a way of life.
That's right.
David,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I always appreciate your wisdom and your sense of humor. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Al.
Yeah.